So hi everybody, welcome to our free webinar, ALSS Emotional Intelligence in Sports. I'm honored to work with you this evening, 2 hours, and to bring you the newest insights from the neuroscience regarding emotional intelligence. How important is actual emotional intelligence in sports?
Yeah.
How can we foster emotional intelligence? And how to find out actually how difficult it is to control and steer emotions that work for us as individuals, but works for us as a team, because in sports, in most of the cases, we are actually the team. Even in individual sport competitions, always it requires one team. So I'm Fadil Çitaku. I'm professor of leadership and emotional intelligence, and my background is medical education. I've been teaching for more than 23 years in higher education in Switzerland, and more than 1 decade teaching actual emotional intelligence and leadership, neuro-leadership worldwide. I'm going to start to introduce shortly our activities, about Academy of Leadership Sciences Switzerland, about our activities. So as you can see, my actually main work, let's say, it is getting to know better the brain actually. And so I do sport. This was live on brain, but it wasn't a human brain, just to let you know at the beginning. I was, teaching students a couple of weeks ago actually, and we get some brains from animals, unfortunately, not that we want them to cut, but they are being cut. And I'm a vegetarian, by the way, so I don't eat meat, but I do teach brain actually, and it is very fascinating. Since we are in sports, so I like sports. I do sports. As you can see, karate is my sport, and I don't do that to hurt anybody, but really I like discipline, and I like it. It fosters especially this emotional intelligence, because you are never perfect. And sports, by the way, are very important. Actually, at the very beginning, actually, the biggest training, the best training for the brain, it is actually sports. So it doesn't matter what kind of sports. With this knowledge that we have so far, there is no better training for the brain than movements and sports of each kind, doesn't matter. But most of the time, I spend my, day teaching actually. And as I said, I've been teaching 23 years, more than 23 meanwhile, in higher education in Switzerland. I'm the supervisor at ETH in Zurich. It is a very known university. And I'm the founder and the CEO of the Academy of Leadership Sciences Switzerland. Academy of Leadership Sciences Switzerland works for now almost a decade, actually, and it is based here at World Trade Center, Zurich, about 5 minutes drive from the Zurich airport. And it has been actually established as a necessity to make more competent leaders. So unfortunately, that time when we have established the Academy of Leadership Sciences Switzerland, and when we talk at this moment with you, so the biggest threat that it comes from this, for the human being, it comes exactly from non-competent leaders. So that is our aim actually, to bring the newest insights from the neuroscience, which nowadays can tell us a lot, and simplify these insights and bring to the market, bring to different kind of domains, and try those leaders to help to become more competent. So, as I mentioned, this is our academy at World Trade Center Zurich. So the whole building doesn't belong to us. We are on the ground floor actually, but those are the facilities of the World Trade Center Zurich. And then we work, conferences or working face to face. So we can use those terms as well. Actually, we have 3 pillars, as you can see, at the Academy of Leadership Sciences, Switzerland, and we prove that leadership is learnable and justify it actually with evidence-based science. And we do indeed make competent leaders. So on the left side, from my side, so we have many activities in teaching, actually, starting with short courses, which many of you have made actually experience as well, especially in sports law, which we are doing a great job, actually. And I want to thank our director of sports law, the lawyer Çitaku, who is doing a great job, and he has managed actually to gather the most competent leaders actually in sports law from all over the world, and helping the others actually to be more competent in their domains. What we do research because it was very much needed, and I don't want really to talk against the others. Absolutely, it's not fair, it's not good. But I have to say, as a scientist of leadership, that unfortunately many theories, all theories, they don't have any kind of background science. So it's a lot of rubbish over there. Just let me start with the great man theory, for example. So it is a very big rubbish, we can say, actually, because it discriminates the woman entirely, because it says great man theory, doesn't say great woman, man and woman. And on the other side, we have seen actually, I mean, regarding those theories which we were based so far, that the world is in a very big mess, actually. And fortunately, nowadays, due to the development of technology, and those are very hard things, you know, so we can see actually the single cell, the single neuron, how it functions in different kind of stimulus, and get insights. And these insights we can bring to simplify, of course, and bring into the practice that people get more skilled. So this is our aim, actually. What we additionally do, we do advising, coaching, consulting for individuals, but for the companies, for organizations, and so forth. We have courses and programs in all of those domains, starting with leadership in business administration, including specialties, which you can see on our website, leadership in higher education, in politics. In politics leadership, it is a very big disaster, I mean, worldwide, absolutely, because there you don't even have to learn anything. Everybody can become politician. And unfortunately, we lack very much competent leaders in politics. So the whole paradigm actually has to be changed, you know, if you want to have a better world and peaceful world. And leadership in healthcare, it's very big issue over there. This is my domain. I come from medical education, as I mentioned, and did my PhD investigating leadership competencies. I will come later on to that. And leadership in law, it is, I have to admit that we were among the first, actually, or maybe the first worldwide, which we have designed actually programs and courses in leadership in law. And I remember I have a sister and a brother who are lawyers, and they were just asking me, so we never heard about leadership in law. And I said, exactly, that's why I am doing that. Because you lawyers, majority of you, I believe you are lawyers now, you know, who are taking this webinar live. But you know that you never learned a word actually regarding leadership during your studies. And most of companies actually, they have lawyers on top who lead, you know, many domains and organizations. So that's why it's very important actually to learn about leadership in law as well. Leadership in sports, very important thing as well, which it is our subject today actually. And we have leadership in IT and innovation. So we are growing, and we are growing together with the whole world actually. So we collaborate with many institutes worldwide, and just to show some of them, in Emirates, for example, we do collaborate, but many other universities as well, because I want to admit that we are not a university, but for PhD and master programs, we always search for very credible universities who want to work with us, and we offer everything. Actually, we have our faculty and programs, as said, everything evidence-based, and we are honored to work with many universities. Actually, we have inaugurated a center of excellence. One of that it is in Emirates, one is in Zurich, and our aim is, as mentioned, to work and help the ALSS in leadership, in innovation and quality. So the Center of Excellence, Leadership, Innovation, Quality. So it has been initiated from Academy of Leadership Sciences Switzerland, but in collaboration with the College of Dental Sciences at RAK University in Emirates. We have done. So we have done many of workshops and face-to-face as well, and online, thousands and thousands of them as well, not now to go in details. And as mentioned, our aim is to make more competent leaders. We don't care where we go. I mean, worldwide, we are open, actually. Unfortunately, now, using this technology, so it enables us actually not necessarily to travel so much and still, give this knowledge that we have spread with the world, that we get more competent leaders. So I've written myself 3 books I've published in German. It is one it's in English and Albanian as well. And so those are about leadership, emergency, this in German, neuro leadership, because we want, as I mentioned, to serve the community. We have many short courses and programs, as said, short courses. We run always ourselves without universities. We don't need that, and we issue certificates as well. We are entitled to, and we are doing a great job, as mentioned, actually in leadership and sports law. And again, I want to emphasize, a great job from our director, Çitaku, who is has managed with very innovative ideas to gather, as mentioned before, the best lawyers worldwide. And we are very honored to collaborate with them. And in the meanwhile, many courses have been developed, and they are going extremely good. So we are very glad, actually, to be recognized as a leading institute worldwide regarding sports law. So you see many courses, not to lose much time now, you can check on our website and you will see them. And I just wanted actually to honor here, the faculty in sports law here, really extremely skilled people, experienced people all over the world, marvelous people who do a great job, and we are honored to work with them together and, to help sports law actually to evolve, so this is our aim. So as you can see, very known people worldwide in their domains. And we are open to our domains as well, but since you come, majority of you from law as far as I know from sports, so that's important, I think, to spread it further. So we have many courses, but I wanted to emphasize here, actually, we have short courses as well regarding ALSS-Emotional Intelligence in sports, which it is 8 hours as well, and spread in 4 weeks. We have neuro leadership in sports, very important issue as well. And so feel free, to register. The intake is actually monthly. So at the beginning of each month, we take the new cohort, and we are making a very good experience with that. In the meanwhile, we have delivered those courses to many of sports clubs, organizations, and Olympic federations and committees and so on. And they really report that they could profit a lot from them. Now, since we have 2024, so it's a great opportunity actually, to book those courses, and definitively your athletes will achieve better because you are teams together with them. Because in sports, it needs leaders and it needs athletes as well. And athletes, in many cases, they take leadership as well. And you need to teach them, beside of that muscle that they have and speed, how to control emotions, how to lead, and so on. And coaches as well, very important thing actually. And if they didn't learn those things, it's very difficult to apply into the practice. We have some courses as well, neuro leadership in law as well, and as mentioned, majority or maybe all of you are lawyers, I don't know. And we advise and suggest you to take those courses as well, because you will profit as a person, but of course your firm and your organization will profit too. And you can take those courses actually as beside your work, and there are very good methodologies that it helps you work actually and learn those very important insights actually regarding neuro leadership and emotional intelligence. So I know I've been now using many times this terminology of neuro leadership, and I know some of people never heard about that. And so this is a very new approach actually of leadership based on neuroscience principles, which it explores how the brain functions actually and how it affects our behavior. And as you can see, those neurocells here, so called neurons here, they are connected, they can connect approximately with about 10,000 or even more other neurons. So it's really amazing what our brain can achieve. And so we are very much delighted to help this field of neuro leadership to evolve. Now you can see, those synapses as you have seen the previous picture there. So as mentioned before, so nowadays we can observe the single cell. So this one, for example, we could observe because the technology it enables us. And some of those synapses, so this here, we have it here. Some of them, they would die actually, and some new ones will, emerge, as you can see. So depending actually, how important is the information or how what we want actually to do in life, it matters. So it generates new synapses, and those are very important, to connect those neurocells with each other. I want very shortly, to share with you this research-based models of leadership, our Academy of Leadership Science in Switzerland. 2012, we came with the first model here, which it has been actually focused on medicine and healthcare, medical education. So I've investigated that time 6 countries, such as Switzerland, Germany, Austria, USA, Canada, and UK. And we came with 63 competencies which can be learned. And those 63 competencies are actually spread in 5 different kind of domains, as you can see. And at the very top, it is social responsibility. So we can never become a competent leader unless we are very much socially responsible. The second one is innovation, as you can see, self-management, task management as a leader we are talking about, and justice orientation, number 5, as you can see. So you can find those competencies, for free online. You can write my name there and you get this. And as mentioned, we have investigated those 6 countries, as mentioned, with a very tough scientific-based research methodology. And for the very first time, actually, in those 6, the most developed countries of the world, actually for the medicine and healthcare, the basement of leadership competencies have been actually emerged from the Academy of Leadership Sciences Switzerland, and I was honored to be, to have led this study, which it was part of my PhD in medical education. So it has been published in British Medical Journal because the effort we give to the science, it pays back. And I don't know how familiar you are with medicine, but this is the most prestigious actually journal in medicine. So many medical doctors and professors and scientists, they dream actually their whole life to get published something in British Medical Journal. And as you can see, we have published this actually study, this model in the British Medical Journal. In the meanwhile, it has been replicated in more than, in the meanwhile, 77 countries as far as I know. I'm going to share with you just some of the actually continents. As you can see here in Latin America, our student that time, he was Professor Mano, but he did at the Academy of Leadership Sciences Switzerland one master in leadership in medicine. And he has done a great job actually investigating leadership competencies in the whole Latin America, for example, and came with great results. And we helped as well him, to publish this and together with a great other scientists. And so I was his supervisor, but I didn't want my name to be on front. So, competent leaders, they don't have to be always on the front. Leadership, it means helping the others to grow, and so, yeah. We have a setting in Asia as well, as you can see here. So just, some continents to show actually. 2020, we came with the second model of leadership competencies, leadership competency model Drenica, because we wanted to see that the previous one was focused on medicine and healthcare. We wanted to see actually how, those competencies can be transferred into the other domains. And that's why, how general they can be spread, and so we did it randomized, told the machine to choose out of 63 only 25, because you would be very glad if you have people who at least, or maybe they have 25 leadership competencies, that would be a great thing. And so we came then with 25 competencies, which can be actually applied in any domain. And this model, it's called leadership competency model Drenica, which can be applied in every domain of professionals. So feel free, please, in low, it fits extremely good. So take it and learn those leadership competencies. We don't care, where you learn. If you learn to the Academy of Leadership Sciences, Switzerland, or wherever. But we made this basement actually for those leadership competencies, which other institutes, can dock on or can take them and teach if they have capability and know-how and competencies to teach. So in science, we always have to serve, the science to serve the human being. Now, let's come to the webinar outcomes. So we want actually to show a little bit, that you will have a bit better understanding, how the brain works, and we will simplify as much as possible. And how to optimize actual performance in sports. To recognize the importance of Çitaku's leadership competency model in sports. Define emotional intelligence. Identify the benefits of emotional intelligence in sports. Learn the 3 core skills required to practice emotional intelligence. And to interpret and manage actually your emotions in sports settings. I'm going to start, with actually the Center of Excellence, as I mentioned before, in leadership, innovation, and quality. And our mission was actually, because it applies those short courses which we make actually, making actually that impossible, making it possible by using our excellence model of 7 features. And one of that is, as we can see, actually to dream. So your athletes, yourself, everybody can dream. It is a great thing, to dream. And who would have thought, in 1963, when Martin Luther King said, I have a dream that, white and black kids, they will play together. That was a dream. So we have 2008 that USA, the most powerful country of the world, got the first president actually color. So I wanted to bring this study, which it was a great study in Science, and Science is a great journal actually, and they were actually authors, as you can see, from Harvard, and they had 500,000 people actually, tested, and they asked two questions. One of that, they asked actually, what are you doing now, and what are you thinking? And as you can see, the most actually 47% of people, by working, for example, during the work, they were doing something else and thinking or dreaming something else. So that's how the brain it works. Some of them, they can focus a bit more. Some of them, do something, but they, dream something else. And authors even, they said actually, those dreaming brains are unhappy brains in one form, but just see it, during the war, they were dreaming the most actually. And they were dreaming even, during the exercising, even during the praying. Where is that? I think, fortunately not so much, eating and so on. But even, it would be the case for the divorce actually. They were even, thinking something else while they're making love, so that's how the brain works, So of course we need dreams, and as I said, if you can steer them for the positivity, something, it's not a bad thing, But I want to quote here. I went in museum in Stuttgart, Porsche Museum, and so this quote from Ferry Porsche. So he said, in the beginning, I looked around, but I couldn't find the car I dreamt of, so I decided to build it myself. So sometimes, things which we dream, so it's a good thing. I wanted to connect with that. They motivate us to do something. Innovate, Steve Jobs, everybody of you knows him. And I don't know if you knew that his mother was Swiss and his father, he was Syrian actually. And, because of contradictory things, old fashioned, whatever, they weren't allowed to marry, so they gave it for adoption, the kid. And this chap, for the very first time worldwide, he changed each culture actually and values of each culture. So he made, you can even say, addicted, the whole world in this smartphone. But you have in this smartphone the best knowledge, that you will find actually if you merge all universities, the best universities are all of them worldwide. So take it as you want. It has, of course, disadvantages as well because of addiction, but it is a huge opportunity to learn, as we are doing now, for example, spreading the knowledge with the world. So innovation. Dream would just remain the dream if you don't put into the action, actually. So we need to put into the action, otherwise it just remains the dream. And we have to believe in that, what we do actually. So making impossible possible. And everything, it is always impossible until somebody did that. And if somebody did that, then it's not anymore impossible. But the brain has a lot of troubles, to make or to go for the very tough things, because it consumes a lot of energy and brain wants to save energy. So regarding this formula here, physics and mathematics, actually by doing the speed, so you could see that those cars actually would drive on the roof, and they would not fall down. So it's incredible, yeah. Inspire, it's extremely important. When we deal now with emotional intelligence, neuroleadership, very important thing is to inspire others, actually. Inspiring yourself, but inspiring the others. And I took this quote of the, athlete, one of the best one worldwide, the world ever had, Muhammad Ali, actually. And he said, very good, champions aren't made in gyms. Champions are made from something they have deep inside them, a desire, a dream, a vision. They have to have the skill, but the will, sorry, but actually the will must be stronger than the skill. And this is as well, how can we manage, to motivate our athletes that they have that, incredible will actually to develop skills. Because if you have a will, you can develop a skill. If you don't have will, you cannot develop a skill. And here, sometimes coaches or teams, they can be very killer of the motivation of the athletes, for example. And leadership, that's why the old theories are a great rubbish. I cannot say anything. The old theories, forget it. So what happened with Napoleon Bonaparte before or whatever, whoever, and it was great maybe for his time and whoever. Hey, that time has changed. I mean, our perception as a scientist of leadership, it means how can we...
My tropical hardware, I'm unfortunately turning left. I was calling you.
How can we help the others to grow? Can you hear me? Sorry. Can you give me feedback if you can hear me, please? Sorry, because can somebody again? Can you give me feedback? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Because I have my slides and I cannot see you. So we were here actually, sorry, about leadership. Leadership, the new theory, the neuro leadership, it is, how can we help the others to grow actually, that we are equal. And if my students are better than me, so actually my goal has been accomplished, So I never have to be afraid that colleagues or my kids or my students will be better than me. That is the aim, by the way. And, the aims that we have to accomplish. As you can see, Porsche, they shows their cards, here. And Muhammad Ali, this is the result, so accomplish your mission. And assurance of the, it's extremely important. For example, we know this Sally, for example, Porsche car was playing in cars. And I remember we have my wife and myself 3 kids, and we were watching because of kids in cinema cars, And you can see the trophies here. So those are those 7 actually steps which are important actually. I want to go now to this so-called neuroplasticity of the brain, because I promised to simplify something how brain works, and really we focus on sports because this is an emotional intelligence, because this is our subject today. And neuroplasticity, as you can see, it's nothing else actually, that it's a notion that brain actually modifies itself. So this is the ability of brain to modify itself and to form actually new synapses. As I mentioned, very important are those synapses, as you can see, those connections between the cells of the brain, so those neurons. And the more of those synapses occur, the better actually we will learn something, and easier we will learn something, or we will change our behavior. We will come later on to change behavior. It's very difficult. You as a coach or whatever, you tell your athlete do that, but it's easy to say, and he says yes. But it's from neuropath, from neuroscience, from neurobiology, it's very difficult to change one behavior. So it takes time, and it needs will as well to change it. It is ability to form new synapses, as mentioned this, but even to produce new cells. And the old theories of biology and neurobiology, they were saying at a certain age, the neurons, they can, can occur the new ones and something. Now we know that even in the older age, some neurons can, occur still, but of course not as many as in the youth age. So to summarize, actually, neuroplasticity, it is modification that the brain does for itself, you can see. Produces new cells, produces new connection between cells. So this is to simplify, because our aim is really to simplify that everybody understands it. We don't expect from lawyers, from others, to become neuroscientists. They have their own profession. And so that's why we are here to explain things. Neuroplasticity, this affinity to modification of itself in childhood, it is extremely high. So that means actually brain, it occurs that, reflexively, Let's give an example. The kid, for example, no matter where he was born, that mother language, he or she will learn fluently without learning grammar. So as you can hear my accent, English is not my mother language, so, and to all of you, if English is not your mother language, so you have an accent, just as myself. If you started to learn English after the age of 4, if you started to learn English before age 4, for example, you hardly have no accent. You will not have accent. So nobody will notice if you are American or English or whatever, because due to this plasticity. And as mentioned, kids, for example, they don't bother to learn the grammar, to say, what is this? Is this a regular or irregular verb in English? They just don't care. They just learn perfectly, reflexively, due to this high plasticity. And we have learned the most from the age we were born till about 4 years old, actually. And you might say, oh gosh, what he's saying. Yeah, it is, just to walk, it's extremely difficult, or to grab something or something like that, not to go now in details. So this is reflexively, as mentioned, walking, for example, talking, and so on. And in adults, actually, plasticity, it involves a lot of attention, a lot of energy, and a lot of focus, actually. So the question is, actually, can we teach somebody? And the answer is, what do you think? Let's go in one a little bit interactive. Do you think you can teach somebody? Do you think I can teach you now? Please just unmute your microphone and feel free to discuss. Do you think you can teach somebody, or somebody can teach you, or me?
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hello, my name is Miloš.
Miloš, please,
Thanks for this webinar. And I really like emotional intelligence and leadership, and thanks for organizing it. Yes, I'd like to answer and to just say my opinion. So as of my background, I'm a sports scientist, exercise specialist. And so, yeah, definitely we can, as coaches or even as individuals, do something with our neuroplasticity. And so it's, as you said in the first, it's the will, and the mechanisms and the tools are, for example, from my background, are that exercise and various motor activity and motor learning activities definitely do something with neuroplasticity. Not something, but they develop and have adaptations on neuroplasticity specifically and in general. Other stuff with neuroplasticity are, for example, language learning and actually development, new stuff, new things, and challenges. So although we are older and that children are easier to manipulate with neuroplasticity, because there are, from my opinion, and also from the science-based part, there are two parts. So children, they are always learning because their core part, their basics, they don't have nothing, and everything they experience and do, it's like doing a plus on another level. And with older people, we have experience, and we can, with experience, manipulate and even learn new things. So it's something also beneficial for children, but also older people can do neuroplasticity. The level and the quality of the neuroplasticity, I don't know, but I'm sure at least something, an adaptation from neuroplasticity is beneficial in the older years. And maybe for the children, when they learn something new and when they develop and grow, the neuroplasticity is obviously stronger. Also, when we watch how children grow, like in the first years, it's stronger, the centimeters and everything, it grows rapidly, and in the next years it slows. So that's my answer, and sorry for the long answer. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Miloš. You summarized greatly. Thanks. It's very insightful for all of us. Great. Thanks a lot. As you were talking, actually, the first part of your answer, which you greatly brought, actually, I was just thinking that I have one slide. I want absolutely just to emphasize that exactly what you said, how important are actually exercises. You mentioned, I just wanted to help you with that theory that you brought, actually. Absolutely. So you could see, and I will come on later, to, a little bit to the other things what you said, which are absolutely great. You can see here, actually, as Miloš said, we have the study here, so that means without moving. The best, by the way, the best training for the brain, it is movement and sports, just as we mentioned before, and you emphasized very good. So we have without training here, this connection of neurons, as we see those synapses. We have after 2 weeks, and we have it after 2 months. So it's incredible, actually, this connection of neurons. But I have to go now back, and Miloš, absolutely, I agree with everything you said. It is just one, and I know my question was a little bit provocative, but yes, please.
Allow me
Please,
to interrupt.
Please.
If you can hear me, allow me to interrupt. This is Dr. Liston Boschet. When we're talking neuroplasticity, to Miloš's point, the cerebral membrane, which separates the hemispheres of the brain, thickens at puberty. It's a biological process. What's called cross-lateralization. All linguistic skills that are stored at that time are cross-lateralized for loci distinction. Anything after that membrane solidifies becomes a single stored side. It's like having two hard drives, pre-puberty and one hard drive afterwards. So language skills, motor skills, all those things have to be programmed in for neuro reactions, myotic reflexes, pre-puberty. So that kind of clarifies the plasticity issue. Is it is biologically determined, nothing you can do about it. So thank you for allowing me to clarify that point.
Okay, thank you very much for a great clarification. Absolutely, you are absolutely right. Great. What I wanted to say, or anybody else wants to connect, the question was a little bit, can we teach somebody? And we can say yes or no, and both of you explained marvelously. Unless he or she really doesn't want, it's very difficult to teach somebody. All we want, actually, as a teachers, as a coaches, professor, whatever we are, parents, we want actually to cause one so-called cognitive conflict. If we make that, because we are not inside of the brain of that person, so. And that we can do really by questioning, what do you think about that? Or, would you like to try that? Or how about that? Or, really asking questions, rather asking questions than, giving the answer. Because if I give always the answer, to them, an issue, it's not going to make one cognitive conflict. And cognitive conflict, now, so we have very skillful people here. I can see great. So that action potential, we call that, so all our brain and those neurons, those nervous system that works with electricity, actually, and the stimuli, it should be enough strong, actually. And of course, the cell should be, in most of the cases, actually should be ready to embrace, this stimuli, let's say. But there are exceptions. If I make, one, now I don't want to make stress you, but if I make now this, so that means actually the stimuli is so strong, if somebody shouts or something like that, so nobody cares if cell it is ready to get that or not, so that we will react. But so this is actually very, we can discuss about, can we teach somebody or not, but to make it short, so we have to find the ways that we got some, make some cognitive conflicts to change, because behavior to change, as mentioned, it's pretty difficult. Now, I saw the colleague of mine, I believe from medicine, who great answered that. I didn't see the name, sorry. And Miloš as well. So they were talking about neuroplasticity, and we have some things which medical doctor, I think he was the last one who wrote that marvelously. We have one case which nobody of us, in medicine or healthcare believed before, actually. That we have a case in Holland, actually. The girl, it was, as you can see, half of the brain has one tumor there, or infection, I think. They had to amputate the half of the brain, the neurosurgeons. And all scientists and medical doctors, they said, actually, this girl will never, we will never talk. And this is this incredible, plasticity of that, really even making, making the center, which it is missing the center of the speech center, missing, and brain actually managed, to create one, and it's incredible. This girl, for example, fluently speaks 2 languages. So it's just to really underline to that what both colleagues says before. As a child, it is one advantage. And we know that if we are old and got one stroke, we have really to work very hard, to compensate some of the functions. That we know that as well. Sorry, this I can see this in German, so I'm sorry about that. So I missed it, probably to translate it or something. But it says, how important is actually, for the focus, this neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. So now we have those, wires of those neurons, but we have, chemical substances as well, which help actually the information to go from one cell to the next, because the brain is so complicated and so many operations. Maybe if it was everything wired, as one cable, it wouldn't have a place for, it wouldn't have maybe just for one person in whole Europe, but the nature is incredible. So our brain actually wants us to be safe. And what we did, actually, we can say maybe, maybe we didn't know till a couple of decades or back, let's say last decade, actually, we learned the most, by the way, due to the development of different kind of scans, technology, and so on. But we have underestimated, unfortunately, very much this part of the emotions. And I know everybody who learned biology and neuroanatomy and somewhere, we know this limbic system and so on. But the new insights from neuroscience and neurobiology tells us lately, actually, that the majority of the brain has, or almost everything has to do with emotions. And this is a very big problem, because at school we didn't learn that at all, actually, nowhere. So that means actually we have left behind and didn't focus on Milky Way, if you make one compare, and we focused in this prefrontal cortex, very, very tiny thing. And this has this called rationality, which it is important too, absolutely. I'm not going to talk against that. But it needs actually both, And now if you tell somebody, don't get emotional, so that means we would tell him or her, actually, so you need to amputate your brain, the majority of it. So the aim is that we get to know actually how to work with these emotions. And unfortunately, in any language that I know, I teach in 3 and I know 4 languages. The vocabulary of emotions, just to name them and to label them, to recognize them, it is very, very poor, because nobody taught us. Everybody taught us, to know some facts. And now I'm not going to disappoint you, but I'm going to tell you what New Insight says, actually, that we have incredibly overestimated, actually, and gave too much, let's say, compliments and too much, actually, gratitudes and whatever to this prefrontal cortex, which it is very, very limited, actually. And it has a lot of troubles to learn some new things. So let's make one experiment just to justify that. If I ask you how much is 5 plus 5, everybody of you knows that, and myself too. After midnight, if your wife or husband asks you, wakes you up at 3 after midnight, says, hey, how much is 4 plus 4? You know that. It's not at all. Because you have repeated, just as myself, many times. Now, if I ask you, and you are all skilled and very intelligent people, all of you, if I ask you how much is 325,000 times 324 through, let's say, 345 times 345,000. How much is that? Anybody knows the answer? I don't know that. And we have actually, in the reality, we have two choices. We say it is difficult, so let's not start it. And indeed, it is very difficult. If you give such operations, you know, when people are under functional, let's say, computer tomography or so on, or fMRI, you know, magnet resonance and so on, we can see actually, you know, where, you know, those, what kind of, you know, parts of the brain now are, you know, indicated there in that scan, you know, which it means, you know, it needs more oxygen and energy and nutrition. So with other words, actually, we cannot learn a lot, you know, difficult things at once. So it needs repetition. What I want to say, if I want, because we want to transfer everything in sports, so it really needs exercising a lot and a lot, you know, and something new. It's always very difficult, very difficult. And all of you went through those very difficult things. That's why you achieved a lot, you know, otherwise it doesn't go. But leaving emotion aside, so it shows just this, you know, that we as a humans, we shouldn't just focus on this, you know, because for learning, extremely important are emotions as well. Now, the other thing is non-conscious part, you know, it is much bigger than that, what we know conscious. And many decisions, you know, almost 95% of them actually, we make actually non-conscious. And from the emotional part, I mean, emotions help us a lot, you know, in deciding something. So I just want to say how actually, what kind of impact they have in daily life and in our professional life as well, and everywhere, you know, what we do in sports, in this case with you as well. So now just to see, you know, from biology itself, you know, those are facts. And till a couple of years ago, we were saying, you know, soft skills. Now they are hard skills. You know, we can read data, and this is our aim as well in Academy of Leadership Sciences. So you will see this prefrontal cortex, as I say, which is rationality and for operation and for planning. I don't want to talk against, absolutely, it's a great thing. But how disadvantaged is regarding the emotions. So in our body, they come about 50 million bits, you know, it is an amount of information, as you can see, very speedy, you know, in 200 of seconds, 50 millions, you can see. And you can see how much disadvantaged is this rationality part of the brain. So they come about 50 to 100 bits actually only. So this tells us actually that decision in most of the cases, it has been actually made here in emotional part. And now what we want, because we don't want to talk against this, this is what differentiates us actually from the rest of the animals. And that's why we can win every animal. I mean, we as a human being, we do a lot of bad things to the animals. I mean, you as a man or woman or me or whoever, you know, we can shoot one elephant, you know, which has tons, you know, just because we can plan that. You are not stronger. I mean, he has much more weight, but this is. And all I want to say, you know, if you are captured sometimes, and it happens in sports because all sports are very emotional. And that's why you have in those football or all sports are equal for me, you know. Unfortunately, in karate, not so many viewers come, you know, because it's not very interesting, it looks like. But I do. But in football, you can see, you know, because it's team, it is, you know, so much emotions there. In other sports too, you know, in football in USA and whatever. So all we want to say, actually, it's very important for those athletes and teams and coaches and things, all of you, but we need to wait sometimes, you know, biologically until we make one decision before the information came here, because then we regret that. I'm going to bring you some examples later on, which you know better than myself. This is this executive center as mentioned. This is the so-called amygdala, and this is always in threatening situation, let's say. Of course, it helps us as other question. It has, excuse me, other functions as well. But sometimes, you know, this amygdala captures the whole brain, and sometimes we cannot then, you know, we react then actually so-called in affect. And unfortunately, during the evolution, you know, this part, it hasn't been much evolved because it is very important. You know, if it's somebody, for example, I'm going to cross the street, you know, and in zebra crossing, one car doesn't stop, you know, because maybe he or she's texting there and didn't see me. So this saves my life because then I see that, and in milliseconds, so I jump away that I don't get killed or hurt. So it has, but sometimes, you know, we exaggerate the threat, which indeed it's not. And regarding, you know, some data that we have almost, you know, there are some variations there, but 80 till 90%, or some of them, they even say scientists till 95%. All this wars and this you know, fear that we have, it will never happen, by the way, you know. But still, you know, this part tries to help us to survive. And sometimes when things then don't go well for us, we are very much afraid. If he or she wants to give me one feedback, then I'm saying, oh, she's gonna destroy me. And getting to know this, how the brain functions, so I have to be aware when I give to somebody one feedback, for example. So let's say if I didn't prepare somebody to give feedback or, you know, something like that, and again, immediately after, you know, the skill, the feedback is the strongest, which it should be good. He or she can capture that probably. But if I stop you in corridor and say, hey, I'm going to give you some feedback, most of us actually, included me, we would say, hey, what the hell did I do wrong? You know. So you see, actually, this amygdala captures that as a threat now. And it depends on culture. I can talk to you about Europe, where I was born and brought up and where I live and work. We are extremely negative oriented. This is the truth. Absolutely. You bring many good ideas. The others say, no, it will not work, kill it. And I mean, those are biases of my brain maybe as well, because brain has a lot of biases. But I have experienced during my studies, I did a part of my studies in United States, and I have seen another cultural approach. You bring something, well, let's do that. And sometimes we Europeans would say, hey, you know, they just promise and don't do. Indeed, they did that. You know, so it's very cultural, depending. But the whole world, unfortunately, it's more negative oriented than positive, and that's a very bad thing. So we call this amygdala hijack. So let's say in one situation, let's bring it from sports, you know, we see we have difficulties, we are losing, you know. If we are now shouting too much, anytime I shout, and I'm sorry that I talk too loud now because I want you to hear, because I don't know technology, how it works, but anytime I shout, I am afraid. If I shout at my children, I am afraid. I don't have under control the situation. If I shout at one student, I am afraid. I don't have the situation under control. If I shout at one athlete, I don't have the situation under control. And look what happened. If we shout at them, you know, if we annoy them and whatever, so those information biologically will go from the amygdala and prefrontal cortex there, you know, on the right side, and they will be more angry, they will have fear, and they will be acute depressive. Now, how can somebody acute depressive can win one game? No, he cannot win a game at all. Depression, it is the one very big illness, unfortunately, very spread worldwide. And sometimes those people have difficulties just to get out of the bed. Can you imagine that? So even when you go through the tough situation, because the life brings tough situation and things don't go as you want always, because you have an opponent in sports, they want to win as well, of course. So if you can actually be quiet and try to motivate, they will come in better moods, you know, you and your athletes as well. They will have better self-confidence, and they will be in flow, even in the very toughest situation, And if somebody's in flow, from different kind of professions, then you are extremely focused and you are very focus oriented, and the likelihood that you will win that whatever you do, it is extremely high. So be aware of that, because this amygdala can hijack the whole brain, no matter how clever you are. Now, how important are emotions in decision making? We know now a lot, and this is a pioneer, Damasio, he's a professor of neuroscience, and he had one. It is a true story. He was a lawyer, by the way, very successful lawyer. He's patient, and unfortunately, he got one tumor here, and neurosurgeons, they did that tumor. They managed very good to get it out. To take it away. And he was still the lawyer, very smart gentleman, father, all tests, he did. And the problem was, making decisions. His wife left him and he got fired, from working, and his life was actually destroyed. And he then checked, medical doctors one after other, and then he has heard about this gentleman here. He wanted to consult him. He did many tests again with that patient, the lawyer, and he asked Damasio him, when shall we meet next time? And the patient, the lawyer, couldn't make a decision. It is a very simple, and please don't get me wrong, so because I respect every human being and professions, but it tells us, very good theory of Damasio, which was then replicated and tested and retested, reliability and so on, validity. Then it shows us very good, actually, that emotions, they help us in making decisions, because this is a correlation. It has to, they work together. It needs both, as mentioned, this part of emotions go to the prefrontal cortex, come back, and match together and make one decision. So that part, that connection, it was destroyed. That's why they couldn't make a decision. Now, the question is, why should we learn actual emotional intelligence? Who cares? And I'm going to quote here Einstein. He just said once that you actually cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. So really, we have to step a little bit back. And if we summarize, what do we mean about emotional intelligence? To make a definition, it is just how we handle, how we treat ourselves, and how we treat the others. And Goleman made a big bomb, let's say, in this domain. Why we care actually about emotional intelligence? And to be honest with you, I learned a lot about emotions because I did my, master in medical education and PhD and bachelor and so on, many things. And of course, as a professor, so I knew a lot about emotions, how important. I learned how important they are in teaching, But the very first time I heard about emotional intelligence, it was as I was, doing my PhD in investigating, the most competent leaders in those 6 most developed countries of the world, as mentioned before. And you will see just the correlation about, comparing emotional intelligence and leadership. So to summarize that, and many of you, or most of you, or all of you probably have leadership positions. So we can never become a competent leader unless we have a very much developed emotional intelligence. And there are many, competencies over there which we can learn in emotional intelligence, but we see there are 5 domains as well. And one of them, it is self-awareness. So I need to know myself. I need to know my strengths. I need to know my weaknesses. And it is very human, that we cannot do everything. And if I don't know something about the law, so I go and ask. Fortunately, I have one sister and brother, and I go and ask them because I don't know that, And or even in my domain, there are many things which I don't know, and ask colleagues of mine. Self-regulation. So how can we regulate, those emotions, as I mentioned, because we have them. We cannot amputate them. They are there, but the point is, how can we regulate them? how can we, find one meaning, even sometimes you see that it is just a loss, let's make, one example. I remember once I was teaching in Emirates. It was, doing one workshop exactly about neuro leadership and emotional intelligence. And I had some time, in the morning, went to the, swimming pool, and I could see that when I wanted, I always walk because I like sports. I don't take the lift. And then when I went upstairs, 6th floor, I could see the car. I couldn't open the door because it got wet maybe. And I went to the, to the reception and asking, smiling and asking for a new card. And the lady asked, why are you not shouting and complaining? I said, no, I'm going to teach emotional intelligence. So with other words, I have to cheat my brain or to feel something positive, walk again down, stairs and walk again up. You did some exercises. So if we try, that's what I wanted to say, sometimes in tough situation or something which, doesn't go well for us, because then that amygdala captures the brain, So then the likelihood actually that you will regulate your emotions, it's very high. Then self-motivation. We are talking about not things which you like a lot, but in each domain, in each of your domain, profession, there are something which you really don't like much. So that's how it works, the brain. We have priorities or something which you like better or more, or, something which we dislike even, But you must do that. And that is the question, how can we still motivate them, to to work. I can tell you openly, and the world, because I'm recording this, is educational, expert in medical education. I know very good that, because of the brain, I know that we cannot assess people properly. It is impossible because it has a lot of variations and biases. Learning is in context. That's a very important thing, in context. So if the student learn in sleeping room, in her or his sleeping room, or in living room, and we do teach and we always teach, in other, we teach at school, at university, whatever. So if you would teach, if you would, if you would assess him or her, in her or his room where he was learning, he or she would actually, for example, get a better mark. We know that. And that's why I know in my profession, so since I know that I can never assess people, properly, there are bias. So I don't have much motivation, to be honest, than to assess people, since I know that I cannot. It's impossible. I mean, with this knowledge that we have today. And but still, because it is very unfair, if you don't try the best you can, even though we have biases and we can never do that, know how much they know, but still try to do the best, because on one side that institution awaits from you, and on the other side, or first of all, that student awaits to try the best you can to assess. And how can we motivate that? Empathy, very important thing. And empathy, when we, I believe that many of you know that what it is, or just to summarize, how can we actually try to feel how he or she feels? And it's very difficult, to be honest, even with the newest insights that we have from neuroscience and whatever, but still to try. And we have, so-called cognitive empathy, but we want actually to emphasize, and we want to encourage, to develop this so-called emotional empathy. Let's make one example. Cognitive empathy, if somebody falls down, for example, I can go and say, I'm sorry. Even in sports or at, walking on the street, somebody falls down, I can say, I'm sorry. Still, it is one cognitive empathy. But I don't stop to help. You didn't much help him. Or in sports as well, somebody can say, I'm sorry. You failed him, I'm sorry. But empathy is, to go and excuse and help him to get up and so on. So empathy is caring, actually. And you have many times, people who are emotionally destroyed of your athletes. And this needs a lot of, feelings here, and to try and get in his or her shoes, and to show this emotional empathy. Here am I'm caring after you. I know, or I at least have the feeling that I might know how you feel now. because 100% we can never. It's very important because of the brain. There is no single brain worldwide. We have, I mean, minus plus, I think about 8 billion people worldwide. None of those brains are the same. And all of those people, they all have right, always. Everybody has right, what he or she does. And this is what we cannot understand each other sometimes. This is why, averagely, depending on culture, somebody whom you love, she loved or him or whatever, got married and they divorced them because they don't understand each other. And expectation, it's enormous high because we see the world just in our own opinion, So be aware of that. And effective relationship, extremely important, as England. And in sports, anyway, absolutely. So what it matters, actually it matters a lot because, it differentiates from competent leaders and non-competent leaders, 80 to 90% of that. Because, let's bring the case in the law. You were all great students, studied law, a lot to work, and, you went very through hard things, After doing that, then it differentiates. Those who have a very high emotional intelligence, they will have much better, many more clients. They will have better cases. They will win more cases. By the way, so that's why it's extremely important for the lawyers in general to learn actually leadership, especially neuro leadership, and emotional intelligence as well, because it brings them at the end of the day a lot of profit and money as well. And, empathy and all those skills that I mentioned before. Why it matters in sports, we're going to make in sports. We know, and we really worldwide liked very much Zidane, one of the best football players, soccer, worldwide. And I remember I was watching this with my wife, it was, as far as I know, his last game. And after this, provoking, and opponents sometimes provoke. It was, we can discuss, it wasn't fair, provoking, but this is a low emotional intelligence, by the way, when we provoke somebody, because what you win? Nothing you win. So he got one kick, but you can see now when he got the red card. So it was difficult, and it is, I have to admit, it's not easy, to manage emotions. And even though Zidane was very quiet and very calm person, absolutely. I was watching this game as well, this box match actually. And Tyson took a piece of the air of the opponent actually. As far as I know, I have to be careful because I forget sometimes the data, but I think it cost him more than $2 million and he was disqualified. So 1 millisecond, you weren't aware, and the harm it's a lot. So there are some neurotransmitters in brain which really play a great role, which we need, to bear in mind, and there are many of them. But this dopamine helps us actually to achieve objectives, and we work hard because you want to win. And regarding the neuroscience now, of course, we have our objectives and goals, and goal is a bit broader and objectives are a bit smaller, and we actually suggest that objectives shouldn't be very easy and shouldn't be very tough. So you have to find one middle, something like that. And of course, the end of the aim is, that we win. That is, we want always, in the whole life, we want to avoid pain, and we want as much as possible actually to encourage, that we are satisfied and happiness and so on. This is all about the life, avoiding pain and reinforcing enjoyment. But if you can manage now, even during the difficult exercises, during the process, project and whatever, where it's very difficult and we are on pain and it hurts, to make it, you know, enjoyable for us. You know, this is what it helps the most, by the way. You know, to achieve, you know, the end goals then. So for you as well, because I don't know your professions and your roles, what you have, but in working with everybody, with human beings, so don't give very tough, you know, objective, because it's difficult to achieve, and people will get disappointed. But they shouldn't be very easy because they get bored. Cortisol, you know, it is one stress hormone, and of course, in acute stress to your you know, athletes, it's not bad. Adrenaline or epinephrine, so-called, as well, and noradrenaline are good things. The newest insights from neuroscience and immunology and so on, they tell us actually that acute stress, it's even positive, you know, the acute stress. But then, you know, the body has to come, you know, to rest a little bit. If the stress is permanent high, this cortisol, then we know it is very bad. It is bad for the immune system. It is bad for the heart, you know, for the vessels, and so on and so forth. And of course, this amygdala, as I mentioned before, you know, it causes us fear. And what we need to reinforce is the so-called oxytocin. So if we make one safe environment, you know, that people are not afraid of us. Our athletes shouldn't be afraid from coaches, for example, or for directors of one club. Absolutely not. If I'm afraid and this amygdala, you know, hijacks me, I cannot be creative. You know, I cannot be in sports. You need to be creative as well, you know, to win the opponent. It doesn't go otherwise. So really, we have to build trust. And if you don't have trust between the whole team, which it's in charge, this oxytocin among the others, it is difficult to win. Serotonin helps us to feel well and to feel proud, you know. So when he or she gets that medal, you know, the body and brain has a lot of serotonin, for example. And we people are different. It's sometimes you see in literature as well, some of people, some of brains, some, you know, personalities are serotonin driven. They are very exact, but sometimes you have to push them a little bit, you know, to do something, because they check and recheck 10 times until they do something, and have a little bit difficulties to make a decision. On the other side, you have those dopamine driven, you see them in literature as well. They can always take projects, you know, they always want to try something else. Sometimes you have to stop them because they overdo things or do too many things that they cannot do anything, you know, let's say perfect or good. And the life is like this, actually. But to summarize, you know, we come in different kind of situation in life, private life and professional life as well. But what we actually suggest is always stop. Stop, you know, think, listen to the information, because our brains don't like much to listen, you know, what somebody's saying. So then we get just one part of information, and maybe then we miss them, you know, interpret it, and then we make one bad decision, and then we regret that. You know, take the time to think, as mentioned before, that those information from, you know, limbic system, from the emotional part of the brain, they go in the prefrontal part of the brain, they match with each other, you know, and then you make one decision, the best, pick the best which you have. You know, sometimes you have not very good choices, but with that which it harms, you know, the least, you know, individuals or team or organization. And I wish you and all of, you know, your team a lot of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and less cortisol. You know, as mentioned again, in, you know, acute phase, doesn't matter to have some cortisol. We even need. Nobody can score if he or she doesn't have, you know, the stress hormones high, such as, you know, adrenaline or epinephrine, so-called, or norepinephrine, noradrenaline, cortisol, and so on. But permanent, it's bad. Now, our brain produces actually irrational fear. You know, for example, the very first time when you go in one new environment, unconsciously, you always have 30 times fear and one time enjoyment. Even though rationally, you change one club and you say, yeah, I go now to Barcelona, or I don't know where, Real Madrid or wherever, doesn't matter, Arsenal and how are they called. He or she rationally has, enjoyment. But always, in the new environment, our brain unconsciously has a lot of fear. And the probability that he or she will miss something at the very beginning because he wants to show as well. So you have to step in his shoes actually and to see he or she is good. Expectation is extremely a lot because now he came to our club, for example. But you have to see how the brain works. No matter how good he was there, give him a time. So what are the consequences actually? So we have to embrace them and really to, I repeat it again, to go in his skin or in his shoes as you want and to try to understand his situation. Because for you, environment is very clear. For him, for her, he doesn't even know where to get one cup of tea or something like that. Everything is new, and the brain is has a lot of troubles, just to get, to survive in that new environment. So be aware of that. In our brain handles actually negative, evaluation far more important than positive ones. And ratio is here 1 negative feedback to 9 positive feedback. So that means if you give to your colleague, to your employee, to your athlete, I don't know, from your work, 1 negative feedback, and you give 9 positive feedback, his mind will always go actually to that negative feedback. And you have learned, to many courses, I believe, always start with something positive. Even if he or she really was, didn't perform well enough, so do that. The word bad in all languages that I know, three of them my teachers mentioned, I never use for the kids anymore. We say probably not optimal, maybe not good enough, but telling to somebody, you are bad, you did bad, that is killing of motivation. And destroying him or her as well, absolutely. You have seen there before in the previous slides, so you bring him into the depression, actually, acute depression. So he cannot work. So give something positive, even if nothing went as good as you have expected, but find something and you will find. And then give something, which you think it didn't go right and that he or she can improve, but give the tools as well. It doesn't help much to tell, oh, you did that not good enough. Some majority, 99% of people would say very bad. You did that not optimal, or you could do better. And then you can ask him, so what do you think? How could you do better? That he goes to so-called metacognition, And I have developed one method of metacognition, which I will share later on with you to check that you improve those emotional intelligence competencies, by the way. Or, you want to become better and better, each of us, myself too. So ask for that. And then you make one cognitive conflict there that he or she has something. And the other side, how can I help you? That he or she has probably ideas, where can I help? And then additionally, you can say, hey, look, I have those resources additionally to that, but let's try it. And bring your experience, just as two colleagues says before, of course, our experience is very important. Absolutely, no doubt of that. The older we get, the more emotional intelligence we get, because we know so far nobody killed us. That's a good thing. And that we have, managed many, many difficult things in lives and in professional life to manage. So be aware of that. Where you give feedback possibly when he or she is alone, because he's embarrassed there if you, say something, not optimal or whatever, So And it has to be indeed, not to wait much long, so, but be aware of that. Now, we have many theories of emotional intelligence. Yale Center of Emotional Intelligence is doing a great job. It's a colleague of mine, Mark, there, that is leading this. Lady Gaga is supporting this because she tells openly that she has been against herself, was mobbing, mobbed. She has been bullying, and she supports that, and I find it great, actually. But what they suggest us, and I bring in those references because really they are leading now. They are leading institutions worldwide, many other institutes, and including ours. We work on emotional intelligence, but I don't have troubles to absolutely to recognize others. They bring this so-called ruler, actually, and what we need, actually, we have to recognize emotions in self and in the others, understanding them, causes and consequences of emotions, labeling. As mentioned before, we are very, very poor in labeling them. And then we don't know, it is this jealousy, it is, or if it is, something else. And if I don't know what is that, so I don't know that I'm on the wrong path, Expressing emotions appropriately and regulating them effectively. So this is actually what's we know that till about 25 years old, this prefrontal cortex that we were talking so much, actually it doesn't get mature. That's why human being actually you have to have until they grow 25 years. Literature, sometimes they say 22, 20, but most of them they say 25 years actually. We have to be very, very patient actually with our youth people, but there are variances actually. There are, as you can see, there are variances with childhood as well. Some of them are more emotional intelligent, some of them are less, unfortunately. And we have the study at Stanford University, it was in 1972, and it was really a very long study, So they asked little kids, as you can see, this girl here, would you like now one marshmallow, or would you like to wait 15 minutes and you get two, the gratitude to wait. And some of the kids says, can you imagine waiting here 15 minutes, this little child observing and not being able to eat? It is a very hard thing. Some of them, they indeed waited, and they observed, those who didn't have patience to wait, and they observed the others who waited, 20, 30 years older, later, they were mid-30s somewhere, kids. And they have seen that those who had patience, they could actually wait 15 minutes to have gratitude. They better achieved in life, in family, in misused less, drugs, alcohols, and abuse, and so on. So it shows the advantage of emotional intelligence. Now, we have almost the same study, but in the different kind of setting, 2018. And they asked those little kids, as you could see, would you like now one donut, or you wait 15 minutes and you get two of them? Now, let's say this girl here, she says, just for instance, she says, okay, I want actually one now. I don't want to wait. But the scientist says, okay, you can get one now, but the rest of the group, the peering group, children, they actually decided to wait and have two. The girl, in this case, for example, changed her mind. She says, okay, I will wait and get two. And a way around as well, if she has decided to wait, 15 minutes to get two, scientists told her, no, the rest, they decided actually to get it one right now. She changed her mind and got it. So it tells us, and of course, similar things we knew even before, but this is, we have it, the study and has been replicated. So it tells us again how influential it is the group actually, which, changes the mind of individual person to change the mind, even though she doesn't actually prefer that decision. And being excluded from group, it hurts exactly as if you would hurt somebody from, with a knife. I will show you one other slide later on. So what it means for us, as a team, we need to be very aware, is everybody there? Is somebody alone? Are they laughing at him or her? So zero tolerance against, laughing at somebody. Laughing together, it's a great thing, but none of us are allowed to laugh at somebody because you can destroy him or her. So why it is actually very neat, because I like the science, and I promised, and I bring everything but, insights of the science. We have this meta-analysis and huge studies for those who don't do, research, which you incorporate in one. And we have a very great, actually, data here, so increased 22% in social and emotional skills, which is very important for athletes as well to invest actually in emotional intelligence. 9%, increasing the positive attitude, very important. Social behavior as well, 9%. Problems, actually decreasing 9%. And 10% decrease in emotional distress. They could cope better with stress, excuse me. And 11% increase in academic achievements. So really, it's extremely important that we invest in emotional intelligence. Now, our brain has, this so-called actual nervous system that it works without asking us, heartbeats like that. I can tell my heart, hey, stop now, make a break. It doesn't listen to me. It goes. Breathing, it goes like that. To be honest, now it is more than 1.5 hours, as I can see. I've been talking. I never had time to think how I breathe, so it goes automatically. But now, in last decade and 3 or 4 years, lately, we have a lot of insights. How can we influence this actually, automated so-called nervous system? And we can do a lot of things, especially, now this sympathetic, as it's called, actually, when we are very, active, emotionally or cognitively or physically, of course. The brain needs more energy, muscles need more energy, and of course it needs, more glucose that it gets, burned, and it releases energy, and it needs a lot of oxygen, by the way, as well, and so on. But now we have some methods, for example, if we need that, and if you see that we are very much in alert, and sometimes we want in sports, you need to be alert. You cannot score if you are not alert in this case, But there are cases which we need actually to stop, this alert. And we see sometimes, fighting there in football or, soccer and whatever, and it causes a lot of yellow cards and red cards and so on. And the most actually effective tool now to come a little bit down, it is actually breathing. So we do twice inspiration and then very slow expiration, So inhale twice and exhale very slow. So the body automatically actually decreases this acute stress, let's say, and it activates so-called parasympathetic nervous system. That means the blood pressure will go a bit lower, the heart frequency will go a little bit lower, and then we will react, adequately before we then regret for that, getting one yellow card or getting even one red card, Because just complaining, what the referee says, you can get one, yellow card. And if you keep complaining and complaining, you get the second one and 2 yellow cards, at least in soccer or football in European, we call that. So you get one red card, and your team, instead of having 11 players, will have only 10. So those are tools which we know now, and we have a lot of data. I can supply you with this. It was from the scientists of Stanford University, actually, as well, published very recently one paper. Now, I mentioned before that this rejection or this social pain, it hurts just as a physical pain. So that means actually nobody in teams we should exclude. It is, and nowhere, by the way. So we have this study from Eisenberger at the University of California, Los Angeles, which very good provided that. And so-called navigoindetalsamine receptors, and so which are endorphins they work that, or morphine so-called, and so on, get activated by pain as well. We have those in our body as well. But let's show this. It's maybe easier to understand. And we have under the scan the pain, the person there, and the aim, the duty what they gave to the people who were observed, it is to play 3 of them, by ball, just giving the ball, to each other, 3 of them. He gives to her, she gives to him, she passes to him, and so on. And the scientists tell, play just A and B and then give to the C, And then you see under this functional, MRI, you could see that what happened, to the same regions of the brain, that they got fired. You can see here, just as when he or she has a physical pain. So it shows us actually just excluding somebody from the game. You can see, so playing computer games there, it was that in this case, passing the ball to each other, and one was excluded, but that person didn't know that indeed the researcher wanted to exclude him. That's what happened. And this study has been replicated, in many cases. So be aware of that. This has to do with emotional intelligence. Now, decision making has to do with this wisdom and so-called, emotion or gut feeling. I don't want to disappoint you, but there is no gut feeling. There is knowledge, but doesn't matter. We call in English gut feeling, in German-speaking world just the same. I know in some other countries where I was born, in Balkans, in Albania, Kosovo, and so on, they call it, heart feeling. There is no heart feeling. There is no gut feeling, but there is knowledge, and huge knowledge, so-called gathered actually in basal ganglia. But unfortunately, this part is not directly with verbal part of prefrontal cortex connected. So then we cannot give one name, Let it be, I don't care how people call that, but, just to tell you, there is this gut feeling that we call it, it is actually pure wisdom and knowledge of you and me. But if you ask me, why, Fadil, did you decide that? And probably you rescued one life of one patient, which it happens always, or it happened when I was working in emergency. Then, of course, I can give you some data, that. But there are some other things which I cannot tell you. We have this huge data actually with surgeons in Australia, and sometimes organs they got if you have some defection or something like that, sometimes they lose that anatomic, topographic structure, let's say, and function as well. And he or she says, look, so far, actually, anatomy book, which I learned, in topography helped me, but from now on, I have, to decide and cut regarding my gut feeling. And 95%, they did the right decision. So it tells us, actually, if they would have done a wrong decision, the patient probably would haven't survived, So it tells us, and we have, in aviatics, those cases, and so on. So to summarize this, you have a lot of knowledge which you cannot express, you and me, human being. So always when you have data and you analyze and something, think about that gut feeling, which it is equivalent with fewer knowledge, and then decide. Well, I would have liked, and I put here, and I will share with you those slides. Because of time, we will not be able, to make one exercise. But I will send to you one. There is a questionnaire of that, and there is one self-assessment actually, which you can, because you want to increase your emotional intelligence competencies. And when you have time, just please go through that, because we are always very engaged. Even after this, lecture, you might have more appetite. Oh, I want to invest in my emotional intelligence, but you go very quick to the daily life, and you will never have time. Just as that's how the brain works, by the way. But we call it actually, one exercise, emotional intelligence competencies with Çitaku. It's my name, metacognition method. I've developed this method, which indeed, if you have patience, you and me and everybody, to go through this, the probability it is extremely high that you will improve one or more emotional intelligence competencies, because many times you want many things to do at once, and brain cannot do that. Because we are talking now about the actually, circuits of the brain, which it has been, some paths are just as one motorway, 8 tracks, I've seen in Los Angeles and in Dubai. Indeed, it's very difficult to go from left, right. And so this is, you can imagine, your behavior, it goes, from neuropath, it's like that, very quick, because you have to done repetition. But now you want to change something, and it really needs this metacognition in order to be able to change and to repeat it. And the question, it would be here an assignment, that you read 1 till 10, for example, and from these competencies choose 3, because the decision you have to make, which are you might say, oh, all 10 are very important. 9, choose 3 of them, which are the most important, and justify why. You have to justify yourself, write down, because if you cannot justify that, you don't take it seriously. Then just by justifying, you make one metacognition, with some neurons fire there, and they connect with the others, and so on, and one path is being made then. And from those 3 competencies that you have chosen, choose one of them which you, would like to start with first, and then justify why you have chosen exactly that one and not the other 2, for example. And then you make the plan how you will manage to increase the competence you have chosen, So you have really to make one written plan. And make a list of intervention then within that plan, which you will undertake to advance the competence you have chosen, And then what are the indicators or signals that make you realize that you are on the right path to advance that competence that you have chosen? And further, what are the methods that you can apply to understand that you have achieved your goal actually to increase the, that competency you have chosen, your work, for example, to work to be, from 5 till 5 and so on. So go through this, and the next one would be, because it's cut in this, I can see, how can you evaluate that, and how are the instruments there as well to evaluate, will you ask somebody else to that, your wife, your husband, your employees, whomever, to give some feedback, or, you see how you achieve and so on. Time goes quick, and I know you are very tired listening, and I can see I have 40 minutes, as I promised. I'm going to make you aware about biases. Brain is a great organ, but it has a lot of biases, and because of those biases, unfortunately, people sometimes kill each other. Even you are lawyers, those things. Unfortunately, you have cases, and wars happen, and whatever, because people are marvelous. Everybody, no matter where he or she was born, no matter of religion, beliefs are extremely important for the brain, no matter what beliefs. But we have data just to tell you, because I respect each religion, because it's important, people to believe, no matter in what. I respect those who don't believe in nothing, no religions. I respect them as well. But very important are beliefs. We have a data just to that in sports, by the way. We have group A, they were doing the same, exercises in gym, having the same nutrition, everything, the same. And then the group B, they were doing just the same. The group A, they believed that their muscles will grow, comparing to the group B. And indeed, doing the same exercising, having the same nutrition, doing, the same everything, sleeping the same, minus plus, the group A, just that they believe their muscles will grow more, indeed they grew. So we have a lot of biases in our brain, and I will just go through some of them. Affinity of bias, having tendency to prefer or like those who are like yourself. Be aware of that. Very important thing. Or, another, the same race or age or gender and religion. And when I am aware of those biases, then I will, then be aware and say, hey, Fadil, I am, it's my name. Hey, be aware of that. Hey, those from law, they are just as good as those from medicine or medical education. So be aware of that. Or no matter, those from Africa are just the same as those from Europe, or from USA or Asia, and so on. Those this religion who practices this is just the same as the others. Now, in groups biases, like affinity of biases, this is the positive perception of people simply because they are like you. Be aware of that. Then outgroup biases, perceiving those who are different from you in a negative way. And a lot of other stereotypes, those people are like that and blah, 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 and so on. This blind spot, very important, identifying biases in others, but not on yourself, on oneself, myself, yourself. Now, they are fault, I lost because it's your fault. No, I have to reflect. No. What did I do not right? Probably there is a problem. Groupthink, as well, not to exaggerate now, mimicking and behavior and so on, making fear and whatever. We have the other as well, relay. This is very important as well. This chronic bias is so-called. Relay on the first piece of the information. So always please be patient and listen, until he or she has given the whole information, because the likelihood that you will miss the information and make the wrong judgment, it's very, very high. And you are lawyers, many of you, so you really have to listen till the end, because if you didn't get the whole information, you will miss it. We have this SCARF model, from neural leadership. It is not my theory, it is from Rock, a colleague of mine. Very important, never attach somebody or, interfere in status. Certainty, very important thing. Autonomy, extremely important. People die for autonomy. I was born in Kosovo, and, the Liberation Army of Kosovo actually were fighting, just to have the autonomy, because nobody wants to be, people die for the autonomy. Relatedness, we said this before, relationship with others, extremely important, and then we can relay in each other, and fairness, extremely important. And all the way, it is actually human being, just as I mentioned before, we see in this model as well, actually, human being wants always to go away from threat response, actually, and to encourage as much as possible, reward response. We have, as we behave, the most likelihood is that the others will behave as well. We have those so-called mirror neurons. That's why, try to encourage people, try to smile. Not always, we are in the good mood, because we are just humans. Somebody's ill, maybe somebody died, maybe in family. Make it transparent with others. And this mirror neurons are actually developed by age of 7. positive impact of physical exercises. It is one, I mean, better than me, I believe. You are involved, professional in sports, many of you, I believe, or all of you. But, we see, some of those neurotransmitters here, and how important is actually, that what your athletes do, and everybody should, move as much as possible. We have those endorphins, you feel much better after exercises, during the exercises, and so on. Acetylcholine as well, you are more focused, and so forth, and so on, because I want to leave some time for the learning. Absolutely very important thing if you do sports. I just mentioned before, as a colleague was exercising this, so I, go further. And actually, I came to the end of this short webinar, and I want to quote my son. That time he was only 3 years old. We don't have to be scientists to know that actually, if we build something stable, it will last. I'm telling you one anecdote, the true anecdote. I was playing with him, and of course, as you, I had, to do position papers and work, and was studying and working and so on. And of course, you want to play with your kids. And my towers, which I was making, actually always they fall down, And he was telling, he could hardly talk. He says, "I give you one advice: build something stable." So, and yeah, so he was a teenager, and I brought him 3 times in California. I wanted always Silicon Valley and Los Angeles and everywhere. And actually, I just want to say, and I don't want to say that he's one genius, absolutely one over child as everybody. But we don't have to become scientists to realize, that the more we invest in something, the more stable it will be that what we do actually. And I want to say, if you invest in leadership, in neuro leadership, in emotional intelligence, in your team, in yourself, first of all, actually, in your team, in your clubs, in your, I don't know, so Olympic committees and federation and how you call them. So it will pay off, because you will succeed much better, and you will save a lot of troubles, and you will save a lot of money. Thank you very much for listening. So I have a couple of minutes to answer questions, as I promised, because in Switzerland we like, the time to be very precise. I can see I have 5 minutes, which I promised. I started 2 or 3 minutes later because I wanted to give a chance people to connect more. Do you have any questions? As mentioned, we have many other courses which last longer, which we could go in details and exercise and so on. But I wanted briefly to just let you know the impact of emotional intelligence on in sports, actually, in each sport. So please feel free. I can put this here. You can activate your microphone and feel free to ask any question. If I know, I will answer. If I don't know, I will really say that I don't know. And if it exists, at least in this earth, I will find it. If it doesn't exist, I will still let you know. Do you have any question, comments? Additionally, something which audience will profit? Please feel free to just switch on your microphone, because I like, conversation rather than reading. It's a better communication. That's why I like it better. We can understand each other better if we talk to each other. Any questions, any comments to this, what you heard so far? So I learned in medical education, we have at least, when we raise one question, to wait 30 seconds. Sometimes are just as 30 years. But I'm still, please, if it's any question open, feel free to ask or to add anything, because only together we are more knowledgeable and stronger. Thank you very much for your feedback. I can see, thanks to all of you. Thanks for your compliments. Well, thank you very much for spending 2 hours with me here. That was a little bit briefly about emotional intelligence. And please do not hesitate, as I said at the beginning, we run those courses every month. You find our website when you check www. It is ALSS-Edu.ch for Switzerland. So you find all of those courses. And we would be delighted to support you and your teams and to succeed in all domains that you are involved. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best, and hope to see you soon again. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.